On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected. Victor Hugo, one of the towering figures of 19th century French literature, died of natural causes on May 22, 1885, at the age of 83. By the time of his death, Hugo had become more than a writer. He was a national symbol of moral authority, artistic genius, and political idealism. His passing was not just a personal loss to his family or the literary world, but a profound moment for an entire nation that revered him as the conscience of France. Hugo's death came at the twilight of a century filled with revolution, industrial upheaval, and the redefinition of the artist's role in society. As a fierce opponent of tyranny and an advocate for the poor, Hugo had spent much of his life in political exile, using his pen to challenge injustice in works like Les Misérables and the Hunchback of Notre-Dame. His natural death, surrounded by public admiration rather than persecution or violence, reflected how France had evolved to honor its dissenting voices rather than silence them. The immediate aftermath of his passing was extraordinary. Over 2 million people lined the streets of Paris as his body was carried from the Arc de Triomphe to the Panthéon, a building reserved for the nation's most esteemed dead. His funeral became one of the largest public gatherings in French history and transformed into a national expression of collective mourning and pride. The state buried him as a secular saint, a man who had spoken for the voiceless and confronted the powerful. Victor Hugo's death amplified his legend, casting him not only as a literary icon, but also as a moral beacon. His works, which had already gained international acclaim, were further sanctified in public memory, studied by generations, and adapted into countless theatrical, cinematic, and musical forms. The continued popularity of Les Misérables, in particular, reveals how deeply his themes of justice, redemption, and resistance resonate with modern audiences. His death underscores how humanity clings to the memory of those who challenge societal norms and demand a better world. We immortalize such figures not just with monuments or names carved into stone, but through the retelling of their ideals in art, performance, and education. In remembering Victor Hugo, we remember the enduring power of words to shape nations and stir the human soul. Dina Merrill, an actress, philanthropist, and heiress, died of natural causes on May 22, 2017, at the age of 93. Her death marked the end of a life that gracefully bridged the old world of Hollywood glamour and high society with the modern landscape of American arts and culture. Born into wealth as the daughter of Wall Street broker E.F. Hutton and serial heiress Marjorie Merriweather Post, Merrill chose a path of creative and social engagement over one of passive privilege. Her passing, though peaceful, invites reflection on the challenges and values of the mid to late 20th century, especially for women navigating fame, wealth, and personal identity. Merrill lived through eras of significant change: the golden age of Hollywood, the feminist movement, and the evolution of philanthropy into a form of civic activism. Rather than retreating into elite isolation, she leveraged her status to champion the arts, education, and social causes. Her death, while not a public spectacle, quietly closed a chapter on a style of living that balanced class, culture, and conscience. The immediate impact of her death was felt most deeply in the entertainment and philanthropic communities. While not as universally famous as some of her contemporaries, Merrill's work in films like Desk Set and Operation Petticoat, along with countless television appearances, made her a familiar face across decades. Her elegance and poise represented a bygone era of refined celebrity, one that contrasted with the often chaotic and commercialized nature of modern fame. Merrill's legacy has not necessarily shifted the trajectory of history, but her death did serve to amplify her unique position as a cultural connector, someone who moved fluidly between Hollywood, high society, and charitable spheres. Her involvement with institutions like the New York City Mission Society and the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts exemplifies how art and affluence can coexist in service of the public good. The memory of Dina Merrill endures in curated retrospectives, biographies, and institutions she supported. Her life and death underscore how mortality often elevates figures who might otherwise remain understated. We immortalize such individuals not through grandiose monuments, but through continued engagement with their values, class, creativity, and compassion, echoed in the organizations, performances, and causes they leave behind. Darryl Hickman, a notable American actor, director, and television executive, passed away on May 22, 2024 at the age of 92. His death from natural causes came at the end of a long and varied career that began in the golden age of Hollywood and extended into modern television, revealing the arc of a life steeped in the evolution of American entertainment. Hickman's death marked not only the loss of a seasoned actor, but also the quiet fading of a generation that helped shape mid-20th century cinema. Beginning his career as a child actor in the 1930s, he appeared in films such as The Grapes of Wrath and Leave Her to Heaven, and later transitioned to adult roles and work behind the camera. His professional longevity spoke to the adaptability required in a constantly shifting industry, especially as he evolved from on-screen presence to CBS executive and acting coach. His passing symbolized the end of an era that valued depth of craft and personal transformation. Though Hickman's death was not met with the national mourning reserved for household name celebrities, it served as a reflective pause for those who appreciated the quieter architects of Hollywood's golden years. It reignited interest in the art of acting itself, particularly the discipline, emotional intelligence, and vulnerability that Hickman later taught in workshops and explored in his book, The Unconscious Actor. His legacy lies not in a single defining role, but in his cumulative contribution to acting as both a profession and a means of understanding the human experience. The challenges of his era, such as the studio system's grip on personal and artistic freedom, shaped Hickman's approach to the craft. His later commitment to teaching revealed an era where actors sought authenticity in performance as a reaction to the commercialism of media. In remembering Hickman, we observe how mortality often magnifies a life's quieter achievements. Figures like him are immortalized less through statues or grand tributes, and more through the lives they influence, students, viewers, and fellow artists. His death underscores our tendency to find meaning not only in legendary fame, but in the devoted pursuit of one's art and values. Through interviews, preserved performances, and continued reference to his teaching, Hickman's influence persists, a testament to the enduring echoes of those who worked not to be stars, but to illuminate stories worth telling. Jerry Sloan, the legendary NBA player and coach, passed away on May 22, 2020, at the age of 78 due to complications from Parkinson's disease and Lewy body dementia. His death marked the end of a storied career that symbolized grit, loyalty, and tenacity, values deeply rooted in both his Midwestern upbringing and the traditional ethos of American sports. Sloan's death was natural but profoundly symbolic. Diagnosed in 2016, he fought through neurodegenerative disease with the same toughness he had shown on the court. A former Chicago Bulls player turned longtime head coach of the Utah Jazz, Sloan embodied the old-school, no-nonsense approach to basketball. His passing reflected not only the physical toll that professional sports can take over time, but also highlighted the era's growing awareness of neurological conditions afflicting athletes. This added urgency to discussions about health and care for retired sports figures. The immediate consequences of Sloan's death were felt most deeply in the NBA community, and especially within Utah, where he coached for 23 consecutive seasons, a rare feat in modern professional sports. He was more than a coach. He was a cornerstone of identity for a franchise and its fans. Players and coaches across the league paid tribute, recalling not just his basketball mind but his integrity and consistency. His death did not shift the trajectory of the sport, but solidified his place in its lore, amplifying his legacy as one of the most respected coaches never to win an NBA championship. Sloan's career, particularly his fierce loyalty to the Jazz, stands in contrast to the increasingly commercialized and transient nature of modern sports. His life story mirrored a bygone era where longevity and commitment were badges of honor. In many ways, Sloan's death symbolized the closing of a chapter in NBA history that prized fundamentals, discipline, and defense over spectacle. In remembering Sloan, we confront how mortality strips away the noise and reveals core truths about legacy. His memory is preserved through the jerseys he wore and the teams he shaped, through statues and arena tributes, and in the stories told by those he mentored. He serves as a reminder that greatness is not always measured in trophies, but in the strength of one's principles and the depth of one's influence. A legacy carved not in marble, but in memory and respect. Matthew Cowles, a veteran actor and playwright best known for his role as the villainous Billy Clyde Tuggle on the soap opera All My Children, died on May 22, 2014, at the age of 69. His death was due to congestive heart failure, a natural cause that came quietly, contrasting sharply with the boisterous, flamboyant characters he often portrayed. Cowles lived outside the Hollywood limelight, embracing a lifestyle that reflected his artistic values and personal authenticity. His passing did not provoke a media frenzy, nor did it reshape the entertainment industry in any dramatic way. Yet, within theatrical and television circles, his death was met with heartfelt tributes. Colleagues remembered him not just for his memorable performances, but for his wit, humility, and deep passion for storytelling. Cowles was a rare figure in show business, an actor who thrived in complex, morally ambiguous roles and also wrote with literary depth. His choice to stay somewhat removed from the mainstream reflects a broader cultural shift during his era, when some artists sought refuge in the authenticity of character work over the trappings of celebrity. The loss of Cowles brought renewed attention to his contributions, especially his role in shaping daytime television drama. Billy Clyde Tuggle was not just a soap opera villain. He was a character with layers, a figure who challenged norms and injected a level of theatricality and unpredictability into the genre. Cowles's portrayal helped redefine the potential of soap operas to blend melodrama with serious performance. His death is a reminder that cultural impact is not always tied to widespread fame. Sometimes, legacy lives on in how a performer elevates a medium, challenges expectations, or leaves an indelible mark on a loyal audience. In Cowles's case, it also lives on in his written work and the admiration of those who knew him as a creative force off-screen as well. We immortalize figures like Matthew Cowles, not necessarily with statues or national days of mourning, but through reruns, retrospectives, and the quiet reverence of niche communities. His story reveals that mortality, while inevitable, can spotlight the subtle power of those who shaped culture from its edges rather than its center. Through performance and pen, Cowles ensured that his presence would linger long after his final bow. Richard Biggs, a talented American television actor best known for his roles in Babylon 5 and Days of Our Lives, died unexpectedly on May 22, 2004, at the age of 44. His death was due to complications from aortic dissection, a sudden and often fatal medical condition that occurs when the inner layer of the aorta tears. This natural but abrupt end came as a shock to fans and colleagues, particularly given his youth and active career at the time. Biggs's passing occurred during a period when science fiction television was undergoing a renaissance. Babylon 5, the series that made him a cult favorite among genre fans, had set new standards for serialized storytelling and ensemble casts in speculative fiction. Biggs portrayed Dr. Stephen Franklin, a principled and compassionate character navigating the ethical minefields of war, diplomacy, and alien cultures. His work on the show reflected the growing appetite of 1990s audiences for morally complex, character-driven narratives in science fiction, mirroring societal conversations around technology, diversity, and justice. The immediate consequence of his death was a wave of tributes from the fan community and fellow cast members. His Babylon 5 co-stars and creators publicly mourned the loss, and several conventions and gatherings paid homage to his contributions. His absence also left a void in the niche world of sci-fi television, where actors often become lifelong icons to fans. In many ways, Biggs's death amplified his legend, not through controversy or spectacle, but through genuine affection and respect for his craft and kindness. His story underscores a broader human truth: that impact is not always measured by headline fame, but by the emotional connections forged through one's work. Biggs may not have altered the course of history in a political sense, but his presence on screen helped diversify television and expand the emotional and intellectual possibilities of genre storytelling. We continue to immortalize Richard Biggs through conventions, online tributes, reruns of Babylon 5, and the memories of fans who were touched by his performances. His untimely death is a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of legacy, especially when built on talent, integrity, and a dedication to the stories that bring people together across time and space. Wittman Mayo, best known for his portrayal of Grady Wilson on the beloved television sitcom Sanford and Son, passed away on May 22, 2001, at the age of 70. His death was the result of natural causes, following a long battle with heart complications. Mayo's passing marked the end of an era for fans of 1970s television comedy, particularly African-American audiences who found representation and humor in characters like Grady, quirky, warm-hearted, and endearingly forgetful. Mayo rose to prominence during a pivotal time in American media as the 1970s ushered in a new wave of black-centered television. Shows like Sanford and Son were groundbreaking for their honest, albeit comedic, portrayals of working-class black families in urban America. Mayo's character served as comic relief, but also as a subtle reflection of aging, loyalty, and friendship in a changing world. His presence on screen brought a multi-dimensional humanity to roles that had long been denied to black actors. The immediate consequence of his passing was a wave of mourning within the entertainment community, especially among those who had grown up watching his work. While he may not have shifted the political trajectory of history, his death was deeply felt in the cultural sphere. Mayo's contributions were honored with tributes that emphasized his role in shaping black television history, and his characters remain iconic in reruns and retrospectives. Mayo's death did not spark upheaval or historical shifts, but it did amplify appreciation for a generation of performers who laid the groundwork for the diversity we strive toward in today's media. His calm, humorous demeanor and gentle spirit off-screen made him a beloved figure to those who knew him, while his on-screen persona is remembered with warmth and nostalgia. The way we remember Wittman Mayo speaks to a broader cultural truth. Not all legacies are forged through grand acts or dramatic endings. Some, like Mayo's, are built through consistent, heartfelt contributions to the fabric of entertainment and social visibility. We honor him through reruns, documentaries, and the continued relevance of Sanford and Son, where his character still draws laughter and affection. His passing reminds us that in mortality, as in life, it is often the quiet contributions that echo longest in memory. Langston Hughes, the revered voice of the Harlem Renaissance, died on May 22, 1967, from complications related to prostate cancer. His passing marked not just the end of a prolific literary career, but the symbolic closure of a chapter in American cultural and political expression. His death was natural, yet poignant, reflecting the ongoing struggles of the era he helped define: racial inequality, the quest for dignity, and the power of language to provoke change. Born in 1902, Hughes wrote during an era when Black Americans were fighting to define their identity amidst institutional racism and segregation. Through poetry, essays, plays, and novels, Hughes gave voice to the voiceless, celebrating Black life in all its complexity, from its pain to its joy, from its labor to its music. His poem, Let America Be America Again, encapsulated the disillusionment many felt with the American dream, while his character, Simple, in a series of stories, offered wry commentary on race relations in everyday life. The immediate consequence of Hughes's death was a profound sense of loss across artistic, academic, and civil rights communities. Memorials and tributes poured in from across the country. Unlike sudden, violent deaths that create shockwaves, Hughes's passing was reflective, ushering a moment to reassess his impact. His work, grounded in empathy and cultural pride, continued to influence emerging Black writers and activists who would carry the civil rights movement forward into the 1970s. Rather than fading into history, Hughes's death helped solidify his legend. He became an enduring figure in classrooms, museums, and libraries. Streets and schools were named in his honor, and his poetry found new audiences during each wave of social justice movements. His ashes were interred beneath the floor of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem, a fitting tribute for a man who once declared, "I too sing America." Langston Hughes's death reveals how mortality can serve not as an end, but as a transformation. His words remain immortal, etched into the American literary canon and revived whenever people seek truth in verse. We remember him through anthologies, dramatic interpretations, public murals, and the continued study of his life's work. In mourning his death, we celebrate a life that made language a vessel for justice, identity, and hope. Constantine the Great, one of the most transformative emperors in Roman history, died on May 22, 337 AD, likely from natural causes, though some suggest illness hastened his decline. His death occurred near Nicomedia, modern-day Turkey, where he had withdrawn after years of campaigning and governance. Significantly, Constantine was baptized shortly before his death, a striking choice for the man who had legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire with the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, but had delayed formal conversion for most of his life. This act marked a symbolic and spiritual culmination of his reign, reflecting both his personal convictions and the shifting values of his era. The 4th century was a time of religious and political transformation. Constantine's legalization and patronage of Christianity forever altered the trajectory of the Western world. His baptism, performed on his deathbed, echoed a cautious yet calculated approach to faith, a strategic balance between imperial authority and emerging spiritual doctrine. At a time when Christianity was still viewed with suspicion by many Roman elites, Constantine's embrace of the faith helped pave the way for its adoption as the empire's dominant religion. The immediate consequences of Constantine's death were both political and ideological. His empire, which he had carefully consolidated after years of civil war, was divided among his 3 sons, Constantine II, Constans, and Constantius II, leading to power struggles that would erode the unity he had achieved. Despite this fragmentation, Constantine's vision endured. He had founded Constantinople, the new Eastern capital, which would later serve as the heart of the Byzantine Empire for over 1,000 years. His death amplified his legend. To Christians, he became a saint-like figure in the Eastern Orthodox Church. To historians, he remains a symbol of political genius and religious transformation. Constantine's reign redefined the Roman Empire, merging imperial power with ecclesiastical authority, a legacy echoed in centuries of European governance. In reflecting on Constantine's death, we see a complex relationship between mortality and legacy. His life and choices underscore humanity's enduring quest for meaning, unity, and divine favor. He is immortalized not only in churches and cities that bear his name, but also in the ideological frameworks of empires that followed. Art, sculpture, and literature portray him as a bridge between the ancient and medieval worlds, an emperor whose final act of faith echoed across time.